If you've been around my page, it's likely that you've seen my viral task tracker. It just got a new upgrade and I'm super excited to show it to you. Now it's even easier to use and it comes with a great dashboard, which you see right here. It also allows you to have different recurring types, so you can go based off of daily, semi-weekly, weekly, semi-monthly, and so forth. And you can also add deadlines. So if you have a deadline coming up here on the 18th, you can add that right there, and it will automatically prioritize based off of your deadlines as well as your priority. So for example, even though this is low, it has a priority of 4/18. If we go to our dashboard, we can see all of our dates prioritized by the date that they're due, as well as a little countdown for each day. And within the specific days, it will prioritize based off of the priority. So for example, this one's low, but it has a due date that's higher than the mediums, so that's why it's above it. This top doesn't have a due date, so that means it's kind of open. You can fit it in wherever you want. And anything with an open due date will go just below the due date. So you can still pay attention to the priority, but it's not as pertinent as the due date. Up top, we have our counter, so it shows exactly how many tasks you have pending on your task list. So we have 8. Then over here to the right, we have a calendar overview of everything that's due on each specific day. So for example, I can see create user, recurring, it's in pending status. That's correlated with right here on the 16th. So you can see exactly what's due each day. And if you want to see a different month, all you have to do is double click on it and select the first of whatever month you want to see, and it will update automatically. For the sake of space, every single cell is limited to 7 tasks, and it stacks all the pending tasks on top of anything that's already been completed, so you can make sure that you're focusing in the right areas. So for example, let's say that I complete this task. Once I mark it as done, it will automatically be cleared from the task list just like normal and move to the Done tab. On the dashboard, it will subtract 1 from our pending task list. On today's date, even though it was on top originally, now it's reflecting on the bottom because it's now completed, and it's no longer visible on our pending task list. But if you go to our Done tab, it will be right there crossed out for you. And since it's done, it will be reflected in our visualizations. The task tracker is super easy to use. Whenever a task is added to your workload throughout the week, you'll put unplanned since you didn't know about it at the beginning of the week. You'll put whatever the task is, so I'll put task 1, for example. When I type in that task, you'll see a timestamp automatically appear under task added. We'll go ahead and start this as not started, select the priority. So let's say I want this to be top, and we'll select the task focus. So let's say special project. You can put any notes right here, and you can put any value adds. So this is where the task brings value to the company. And then any links you can put right here as well. If it doesn't have a deadline, you can leave this empty. Not a problem at all. If it does have a deadline, then you can add a deadline by double clicking and selecting it from the pop-out calendar. So let's say this one has a deadline of April 25th. Once I add that, you'll see it automatically populate right here. So we have April 25th, which is 9 days away. And on April 25th, you'll see the task listed as not started. If I want to reorder the task by priority, I can simply click on the caret, go to sort column, A to Z, and now it's ordered based on priority. Whenever I start that task, I'll mark it as pending. You'll see a timestamp appear over here under task started. And then when I mark it as done, you'll see a timestamp appear under task completed, and it'll be moved to the bottom of the Done tab. Now, once it's moved to the bottom of the Done tab, everything will copy over with it, and we'll have 2 extra fields that we don't have on the other one. We'll have whether we met the deadline or not. So if we did meet the deadline, it'll be on time. If it didn't meet the deadline, it will say overdue. And if it's blank, that means that there was no deadline to meet. Lastly, it will extract the Monday of the week where the task was completed. So even though this is the 16th, it's the week of April 14th. And this is really what helps with the visualizations. Over here on the visualizations tab, we have a summary of all of our completed tasks broken up by the week as well as month. So we can see where we're spending our time. So we have the task focus, we have our task priority, we can see our type, and we can see our on-time completion percent. So for example, if you see a low week, then you see a special project, maybe the special project just took a long time, or you're focusing in different areas. So it's a good little snapshot to see exactly where you're performing, where you can prioritize better, or if you're prioritizing just right. Over here on the task list, if we have a task that gets put on the back burner and you don't want to complete it right now, but you don't really want to lose track of it either, you can mark the task as parked, and it will automatically move from this task list to the bottom of the Park tab. And then when you're ready to complete it again, you can mark it as ready. It'll move automatically back to the bottom of the task list. And then from there, you can mark it as not started, pending, whatever the case is as you go. As you continue marking things as done, this completed counter will give you a count of how many tasks you've completed this week. And updating it's super easy for the next week. All you have to do is double click on the weekly start date and select the Monday of the next week. The counter will start to 0 and change any unplanned tasks to planned tasks. And the reason why we're changing from unplanned tasks to planned is because we now know about them going into the beginning of the week. All right, so that's how to use the task tracker. Now let's build it. We're going to open up a new spreadsheet by going to File, New, Spreadsheet. Then the first thing we're going to do is name it. So we're going to name this whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to put this upgraded task tracker tutorial. We're going to go down here to sheet 1, right click on the tab, go to rename. We'll rename this as task list. Make sure the punctuation and everything is the same, otherwise it will mess up the automation later on. We're going to select all of columns A through L, then go to format, convert to table. And now we have a nice little table. And if you want to change the color, you can. All you have to do is click on this little caret, go to table header color, and select whatever color you want. For this one, I'm going to leave as green. I'm going to rename this as task list. And then I'm going to select M all the way through the end of all the columns, and then press delete. All right, so now we should have a table where we have columns A through L. We'll click on row 1 and insert one row above. Then we're going to order this a little bit differently. So I'm going to put this right around here for column B. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Column C, a little bit bigger. Column D, a little bit bigger. E and F and G are fine. And everything else is a little bit bigger. We can reorder those later. In cell B1, we're going to type weekly start date. In cell C1, we're going to go to data, data validation, add rule. From the dropdown, select is valid date. Reject the input if it's not a valid date, and hit done. And that's what allows the nice little pop-out calendar, so you can put whatever the Monday is super easily. In D1, we'll put completed. And then in cell E1, we're going to add a formula a little bit later on for the counter, but we need another tab to be created first, so we're going to hold off for that. I'm going to select A1 through E1, go to fill color, select the little dropper, and then match whatever color I have here. And then I'm going to change the font to white. All right, now I want this to be right aligned. So we'll put that there. And then I want weekly start date to be right aligned as well. So I'll put that there. Perfect. And I don't care about these little lines in here. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything. Go to view, show, grid lines, and uncheck it. So now it looks nice and polished. Last thing I want to do is make it bold and one size bigger. All right, for column 1, we're going to rename this as type. I'm going to use a drop down. So we'll select this little caret, go to edit column type, drop down. We'll put planned, unplanned, recurring, unable to start, and follow up. Now you can do whatever color scheme you want here. I'm just going to put light green for planned, light orange for unplanned, light purple for recurring, unable to start will be black, and follow up will be brown. Now I can press done and you should see a drop down with all the different options right here. You can click them, you can select a different one. Everything looks good, so we can move on to column 2. This will be the task list. This will be where you actually type your tasks. This is going to be text, but we don't really need to define a value, so we'll just leave it as the pre-built none. So in column 3, we're going to put progress. And this will be a drop down as well. So we're going to click on that caret, go to edit column type, drop down. And for this one, we'll put done, pending, not started, next week, ready, and parked. Now, one thing to note is that these do need to match identically with what this is. If you have any spaces, anything like that at the end, it will mess up the automation. If you have a different name, it will mess up the automations. So make sure you have it right here. I'll show you a little bit later how to adjust those once we get to the app script code. But for right now, bear with me, do it as is. I'll assign some colors. So for done, I'm going to put green. For pending, I'll put yellow. For not started, I'll put blue. Next week will be red. Ready will be a light purple. And then parked will be purple. I'll hit done, and just like last time, we should be able to select all those different options. For column 4, we're going to put priority. Then we'll select the little caret again, go to edit column type, drop down. Now for this one, make sure to do it exactly as it is as well. The reason why we're doing it with the number and then the priority is that way we can sort it. Otherwise, it will only sort by alphabetical. We'll put 1 space dash space recurring, 2 space dash space top, 3 space dash space high, 4 space dash space medium, 5 space dash space low, 6 space dash space follow up, and 7 space dash space unable to start. Now, once again, you can do whatever color scheme you want. I'm going to go ahead and do purple for recurring, red for top, blue for high, medium light orange, low yellow. For follow-up, we'll go ahead and keep that same scheme as we had before with the brown, and then black for unable to start. We'll hit done. And now we should have that drop-down list as well. Column 5 we'll rename as deadline. And then we're going to change the column type to be a date right there. And once you select date, that does the same thing as how we did before with the data validation, where you'll be able to select the pop-out calendar date. Column 6, we're going to put link. This will be where you link things. For column 7, we're going to rename this as task focus. And this will be a drop-down as well, but we need to do a different type of drop down. So edit column, drop down, and then this time we're going to select drop down from a range. Now, we don't have the range that we need to drop down built yet. So right now we're just going to select drop down. You can put whatever value you want, or you can simply press X and it will default to this option 1, option 2. We'll come back to that later. In column H, we're going to put notes, column I, value, add, J, task added, K, task started, and L, task completed. Now, these are going to be text fields. We don't really need any formatting. If you want, you can go to column type text. Same thing for value add, column type text. And then the automation is going to automatically add the dates right here, so you don't really need to do anything with this. At the end of the day, the timestamps are kind of nice to nose. So what I do is I go ahead and select J through L, right click, view more column actions, and then say group columns J through L. That way, if I want to see them, I can expand them. And if I don't want to see them, I can collapse them. But it's a super easy toggle. That way it's not having to hide and unhide. And that way it kind of saves some space. You can have more space for these other columns that are a little bit more important. All right, so now the task list is essentially done with the exception of the completed tab and the task focus, which we need to complete a little bit later. So I'm going to right click on task list and select duplicate. I'm going to rename it as parked. Change the table name to parked. Change the color header to, let's say, purple. I don't need row 1 anymore, so I'm going to right click on row 1 and select delete row. And it should look exactly like this. We actually need to rename this as parked tasks for the automation to work. Now we don't need to have any formatting, so I'm just going to go ahead and put none for every single one. That way it's blank unless something is copied over from the other tab. And that's just for the sake of simplicity. We're going to create another tab called recurring. So I'm going to add a sheet. Rename it as recurring. Then I'm going to go back over here to part tasks and copy A through K. Then I'll paste those right there. And it should look something like this. So we don't need this grouped anymore. So I'm going to remove this group. I'm going to rename it as recurring. Use the drop down to change the color to this orangey color. I'm going to select type through task focus, cut it, and then cell B1, paste it. Change A to day. I is going to be last added. J is going to be days since last. And K will be to add. Now with M and N, I'm going to go ahead and select both of them, then select the little line in the middle. That will make those uniforms but bigger. In cell M1, I'm going to put frequency. Then in N1, I'm going to put day threshold. Then here you're going to put whatever frequencies you want. So you don't have to do every single one that I'm doing. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to put daily. This will trigger anything that you want for a daily task. So if you want to clean your emails every day, have that on my list. That's a daily task. You can have bi-weekly, semi-weekly. The definition of bi is different depending on who you ask. So put whatever makes sense to you. I'm going to put semi-weekly. And for the day threshold for daily, I'm going to put 1, and then semi-weekly, 3. That means if it's marked as semi-weekly, every 3 days it will be added back to your task list. We'll put weekly, 7, semi-monthly, 14, monthly, 30, every 2 months, 60, quarterly, 90, semi-annual, 180, and annual, 365. All right, so everything's looking good right there. Let's go ahead and select M1 through N10. We'll make it outside borders. Let's make those a little bit bigger. We'll go to the fill color, go to alternating colors, and select whatever color scheme you want. I'm going to put this yellow color right here and press done. Let's make both of the headers centered and bold. And let's make column L just a little bit smaller. Now, for column O, let's make that a little bit smaller as well. In P1, we're going to put task type. And this will be where you have the different types of tasks that are correlated with your position. So I work in revenue operations. So what I have that's correlated with my position would be completely different than somebody that works in mortgage or HR or whatever else. So we're putting it right here. That way it's dynamic. So you can add these later on. You can subtract them if you want to. You can add more. This way, it automatically updates all the drop downs that are correlated with the task type without having to go in and manually change things. I'm going to go ahead and put increased efficiency, increased profitability, and so forth. All right, now you're going to select all of column P, go to borders, outside border. It's the thick one. Then we'll go to fill color, alternating colors, and select a different fill color. I'm going to make this orange color. Hit done. And then I'll make the header centered and bold. Now you can see right here, it flows over the end of the cell. So I'm simply going to move the cell over. Now we don't need anything else. So I'm going to select Q all the way through Z and delete those columns. And then depending on how many recurring tasks you have, you might not need all these rows as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select 31 all the way through 1000 and delete those rows too. In fact, I recommend you doing that. That way everything works a little bit better. Now for day, I'm going to drop down with the caret, go to edit column type, drop down. We're going to drop down from arrange, click on the 4 little boxes, select the data range, and then we're going to select all of the different frequency options. Now everything is automatically there. You can add different colors. So I'm just going to add some random colors right here. You can add whatever colors you want. Cool. So now under day, everything will automatically populate based off of whatever you have right here. So if you change this to daily with an exclamation point, for example, you'll see there's an error message right there. You'll have the daily. It will not have any formatting, so you just need to add that formatting in. So just an FYI for that. If you decide after a while that you want to change the thresholds, you can change these right here. It's not a big deal. All the formulas will be tied to these thresholds. Under type, we'll need that same drop down as we had before. If you want to create a little side list so you have everything in one spot, feel free. We don't really edit this after building it, so that's why I don't have it pre-built like that, but it's up to you. So I'm going to select column type, go to drop down. I'm going to put planned, unplanned, recurring, blow up, unable to start. And we'll use the same exact ones we had before. So planned will be light green, unplanned will be orange, recurring will be purple, follow up will be brown, and unable to start will be black. Now, you don't need to necessarily have all of these. The only reason why I do is because if I want to add something later on that's not a recurring task, you can do that as well, but it's up to you. We're going to put done, and now we have the option for that drop down. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Then for the task list, we're going to put whatever the task is. So let's say clean inbox, for example. Let's say send monthly performance. So both of these I'm going to put as recurring. And then one's a daily task, one is a monthly task. So a little hack, what we can do is we can simply copy, paste, and now we have all those already. Now for deadline, we want to select a date. It's going to be blank right now, but you want it to be clickable later on after it's copied. Link, you don't need to have any formatting. Task focus, we do have the options now. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, go to edit column type, drop down from arrange, select the 4 little boxes, click on select a data range, and then over here, I'm going to select all of the task type, and then delete the rows. So that way it goes all the way through the end of column P. Reason why we want it to go all the way through the end of column P is that way if we add additional items later on, we want those to be included. All right, I'm not going to add any color to these. You're more than welcome to if you want to. I'm just going to hit done. Before we keep going, we can go ahead back to our task list, and we can add the task focus there. So we're going to go ahead and click into any of the drop downs, click on the little pencil, drop down from arrange, select the 4 little boxes, select a data range, go to our recurring tab, and then select all of the task type. Once again, delete the rows at the end so you have all the way through the end of column P. Press OK, and press OK. So now it should look something like this, but if you were to add something later on, let's say test, not only will it update right here, it will also update right here, so it's a little bit more cohesive. I'm going to delete test, and let's keep going. Last added will be a date that will automatically populate based off of the last time it was added to the task list. It will be done automatically, so you don't need to put anything here or change the formatting. A since last, this will be a formula. So we're going to go ahead and put in a number since it will be a number. We're going to put this formula. So if is blank, I2. So if this is blank, then I want it to be blank. So we'll put comma, comma. Otherwise, if it's not blank, so if it does have a date, we want the maximum of 0 or today minus I2. And we want to have that wrapped in a roundup. So it needs to look exactly like this. So if open parentheses is blank, open parentheses, I2, close parentheses, comma, comma, max, open parentheses, 0, comma, round up, open parentheses, today, open parentheses, close parentheses, minus I2, close parentheses, close parentheses, close parentheses. Now, once you press enter, it'll be blank. The reason why it's blank is because the last added date is blank. Well, let's go ahead and add a date. So just to make things simple, we'll go ahead and make this a date formatting. So once we add a date, 17. Days since last, 0. And that's because I'm filming this on April 16th. So the 17th is tomorrow. If I were to put the 14th, you'll see that that is a 2. And that's because, once again, today's the 16th. It's been 2 days since the 14th. So everything's working properly. Now you need to go ahead and drag this formula down all the way through the end of the column. So that way, when you add something a little bit later on, it will automatically populate. For this specific formula, we have to have this in each specific row. And the reason why is because we're using this max formula. If we tried to create one formula for the entire column, like we're going to do in the to add column, it won't work because it's going to mess up with the dates. So for to add, we're going to put this formula here. And before you start running for the hills, don't worry. You don't need to know how this works necessarily. All you need to do is copy it exactly. So this is going to be an array formula. An array formula is just saying that we're going to apply the formula we have here to the entire array or range, aka we're going to apply this one formula to every single row in the column. That way we don't have to worry about creating a new formula for every single time, just like we did for column J. So that's what array formula means. So we're going to put if I2 is blank. And the reason why we have I2 through I instead of just I2 is because we're going and looking at the entire column at once. So if I2 is blank, then it's going to be blank. Otherwise, if or weekday of today is equal to 1, aka based off of the Sunday through Saturday calendar that we use in the United States. Day 1 is a Sunday. I don't want this to populate on a Sunday because I'm not working. So if today is day 1, aka if today is Sunday, or if today is day 7, which is equal to Saturday. And if you work in a country where you start your day on Monday, so day 1 is Monday, then you can simply adjust these to be day 6 and day 7 instead of day 1 and day 7. So if today is either Saturday or Sunday, day 1 or day 7, then I want to say no. And no means to add no. If J2, so J2 is looking up the days since the last time it was added. If that minus the lookup, so this is looking up whatever we have here, so daily, it's looking up what the day threshold is that's correlated with it. So if this number right here minus this number right here, because we have daily, is greater than or equal to 0, then I want to put yes. Otherwise, I want to put no. So the reason why this is yes is because 2 days is more than 1 day. If we were to change this to today, for example, it would change to no. If we were to change this to yesterday, it would change to yes, because 1 equals 1. And that's, like I said, that's just because it's daily. Now, if we were to change this to semi-weekly, for example, it's going to change to no because 1 day is less than 3 days. And even if we have a couple of days, it's still going to be no. So that's how this formatting is going to work. If you have my old version of this, it's based off of the date. And this new version, to be more dynamic, is not based off of the date with specific triggers one by one. Instead, it's based off of this yes or no calculation. So every single day, anything that's marked as yes is what's going to be copied to the task list. Anything that's marked as no will remain the same. All right, once again, we don't need to copy these down because this will automatically populate. So for example, if I have this monthly task, let's say I put this on April 1st. It's been 15 days since the last time it was added. It's not going to be added again until we roll over to that timeline because we're set to monthly. If we had this set to March 16th, for example, it would say yes because 31 is greater than 30. So this is where it comes into play, where if you want to play around with the different day thresholds, feel free, but that's how that works. All right, so what we need to do here is just change everything to not started. For priority, let's change all of these to recurring. Just so you know, if you try to drag this down, it's going to increase the 1 each time. So the trick is if you're doing multiple, put 2 and then drag that down, and it will keep the same pattern. Now for task focus, for clean inbox, I'm going to put hygiene. Then for our monthly send monthly performance, I'm going to put reporting. Perfect. I'll put this back to April 1st, and now we are good with the recurring tab. Next thing we'll do is add a new tab. We'll rename this as done. And once again, you do need to have it exactly like I have it. You can change it later once you know how the automation works, but just for the sake of consistency, make sure it has a capital D, put done, no spaces at the end, press enter. We're going to going to go back to our task list. We'll select A all the way through L, and we're going to copy. Now, I don't want a table here. The reason why I don't want a table here is because we're going to have some formulas embedded into the header, and that does not work with table format. So instead, I'm going to right-click, paste specials only, values only. So now I have all the different names without having to type them out, but I don't have to have the table formatting. For M, we want to have met deadline. And for N, we want to have week start. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this some formatting. So I'm going to go select A through N, go to fill color, select whatever color you want to. I'll put it as like a dark blue. I'm going to change the font color to white, make it a little bit bigger, make it bold. That way everything looks nice. No formatting needs to be done here. And the reason being is because everything is going to come from our other tab. Now we don't have the ability yet to be able to make the automation. So I'm simply going to go to my task list. And I'm going to put a dummy one. So let's say unplanned, task test, progress, not started, priority, high, task focus, whatever. Everything else can be blank. I'm going to copy cells A3 through G3. Go to our Done tab and press Paste. So like I said, everything is automatically going to flow through with the different drop downs. You don't need to make any adjustments after this, but in case you do, that's where it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and put today's date. I'll go ahead and put those for task started, task added, and so forth. The reason why we need this is because we need to create the formulas. So for met deadline, we're going to embed a formula into this header. And once you do that, it's going to look like this. So we're going to put equals. This is super important because it looks like a open parentheses, but in fact, it's actually an open curly brace. So if you put a parentheses, it won't work. Open curly brace. Inside of quotes, we'll put our header, which in this case is met deadline. Then we'll put a semicolon, array formula, open parentheses, if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, E2 colon E, close parentheses, comma, comma. So if the deadline right here is blank, we want to return a blank because there's nothing to compare. If it's not blank, if there is a deadline, then if, open parentheses, round down, open parentheses, E2 colon E, close parentheses, less than, round down, open parentheses, L2, colon L, close parentheses, comma, the word overdue, inside of quotes, comma, on time, inside of quotes, 3, close parentheses, and then the last thing is a closed curly brace. So once again, it looks like a closed parentheses. The very last one is not a closed parentheses, it's a closed curly brace. If you forget it, or you put a closed parentheses instead, it's not going to work. So once I press enter, we'll still have this met deadline, but we'll have a formula that's embedded. There's nothing there, and that's because there's no deadline already here. So let's go ahead and copy 4/16, which is today's date, paste it right there, and you can see that now we have on time. And the reason why we have on time is because we completed the task at the same time as the deadline. Now, if the deadline was yesterday, it should change to overdue. And if that deadline is tomorrow, it should still say on time because it was before. And if it's deleted, it should be blank. Everything is working exactly as we want it, and this will work for every single one of these columns as they get added. Now, as I mentioned, during the real life flow, it will automatically move all of these lines from the task list to the Done tab. So this will update automatically without you lifting a finger. Now for week start, we're going to embed a formula into it just like we did last time. And we're going to put equals, open curly brace. Once again, not an open parentheses, but an open curly brace. The word week start, inside quotes, a semicolon, array formula, open parentheses, if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, L2 colon L, close parentheses, comma, comma. So if the date in column L is blank, then it's going to be blank. If it's not blank, then we're going to round down, open parentheses, L2 colon L, plus 3 minus weekday, open parentheses, L2 colon L, comma, 16, close parentheses, close parentheses, close parentheses, close parentheses, so 4 close parentheses, and then a closed curly brace. So once again, it ends with a closed curly brace, not a closed parentheses. If you do a closed parentheses, it won't work. Now, once we press enter, we should get a date. If you get a number, no worries. You might not know, but all of Google Sheets, all of spreadsheets really, all the dates are going to be a number on the back end, which is what allows for the calculations to be completed. So all we need to do is just go to 1, 2, 3, date. So now it's going to calculate the Monday of the date that you started with. If we double click right here, we can see that the date is the 16th. And then the Monday of the week where we completed that date is the 14th. So it's working exactly as we wanted it. If we were to change this to the 10th, for example, it's going to return the 7th because that's the Monday. So everything's working properly. And back to the task list, we can go ahead and add that completed tracker. And for the sake of time, I'm going to paste the formula right here, just like I have been. So we're going to put equals count ifs, open parentheses, done, exclamation point. So all you have to do to add this done is go here, the done tab, select all of column L. So when you do that, it will put done, exclamation point, L:L, or you can simply type it out, whichever one's easier for you. So count ifs, open parentheses, done, exclamation point, L:L, comma, quote, greater than or equals to, quote, ampersand, C1, which is our date, comma, done, exclamation point, L:L, comma, quote, less than or equal to, quote, ampersand, open parentheses, C1 plus 7, close parentheses, close parentheses. What this is doing is it's going to look at everything that was completed in the Done tab in column L, and it's going to see if it's greater than or equals to whatever date's right here. It's going to look to see whatever is less than or equal to this date plus 7, so you can get the whole week in there. So in this case, we completed that task today, which is April 16th. So it's showing that we have one that's completed. That's because it's between the 14th and 7 days from the 14th. If I were to add this to the next week, it will show 0. And that's because that completed task no longer falls within that range. All right, now I'm going to add another sheet. And we're going to rename this as combined list. So combined list. And then I'm going to go to my part tasks and select everything from A all the way through G. You don't need anything else after G. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in cell A1. Change the name of the table to combined list. We'll change the color. I'm going to put this as this green color, or whatever color this is. It doesn't really matter. Over here to the right, we're going to add one column. Put this as task summary. And just for it to make sense, I'm going to put this as task test 1. And then on the done tab, I'm going to put task test 2. Now on the combined list, I'm going to put in cell A2 this formula. So it's going to be equals query, open parentheses, V stack, open parentheses, cells A3 through G from the task list. So type this out exactly as is, or you can select it from the task list by going to the task list and selecting A3 all the way through column G, all the way down through the end of the rows, comma, done, exclamation point, A2:G. So same thing, type it out as is, or you can go to the done tab, select cell A2, all the way through G, then go all the way down to the end of the rows. And then you'll close the parentheses. So what we're doing is stacking the contents of A3 through G on the task list on top of the contents from the done tab, A2 through G. Now, we don't want to include the blanks, so that's where this query formula comes in. So after this parentheses, we'll put a comma, then inside quotes, we're going to put select asterisk where call to is not null. And pay attention to the punctuation. Call to does have to have a capital C and a lowercase OL. That will be inside quotes. We'll close out the quote, put a close parentheses, and press enter. Now it should look like this, where we have the task list item on top of the done list item. Now, if you have it backwards, double check. It could be that you have done listed first and task list listed second, but it should look exactly like this. We're going to put this formula. So we're going to put equals if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, C2, close parentheses, comma, comma, B2, ampersand, quote, space, dash, space, quote, ampersand, open parentheses, index. That does not need to be capitalized. That's a typo. Index, open parentheses, split, open parentheses, D2, comma, quote, space, quote, close parentheses, comma 1, comma 3, close parentheses, ampersand, quote, space, dash, space, quote, ampersand, C2, close parentheses. So once we have that, we're going to go ahead and drag this formula down to the end of the columns. And this task summary is what you'll see inside of the calendar. We have task test 1, which is our task. we have the priority without the number in the dash, and then we have the progress. So you can see here we have top, we have pending, down here we have high, we have not started. Realistically, this should say done because it's on the done tab. So once we update that, on the task list, it automatically updates. You'll see that it's done. We don't need columns I through the rest of the columns, so we're going to go ahead and select all of those and press delete. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change part task to right in front between task list and combined. We're going to add a new tab. So we'll click on the plus in the bottom left-hand corner, right click, rename. This will be visualizations worksheet. All right, in cell A1, we're going to go to data, data validation, add rule. Under criteria, drop down to is valid date. If it's not a valid date, reject the input and hit done. And we're going to add a date in the past. I'm going to go ahead and put January 6th. You can put whatever makes sense for you based off the time that you build it. What the purpose of this is this is the bottom threshold. So for our visualizations, we don't want to have 2 years worth of data showing because that's just going to make the lines very, very small. So we only want to have a strategic amount of data showing. So we'll only show values in our pivot tables and our charts if the completed date is greater than or equal to whatever date you have right here. And I am in the US, so this is January 6th, not June 1st. All right, so I'm going to go to done and then select A all the way through N, then go to insert pivot table, existing sheet, select the 4 little boxes, click into it. Then we're going to go back to our visualizations worksheet. And in A3, I'm going to press OK and then create. We'll put task focus under rows, uncheck show totals. We'll put week start under columns, uncheck show totals. We'll put task list under values. And then task completed we'll put under filters. We'll click into the task completed, go to filter by condition, equals, greater than or equals to, equals A1. And then we'll hit OK. And make sure you actually have something in your done tab, otherwise it's going to be blank. So you can see here that we have one record and it's on 4/14, which is above January 6th. If I were to change this to December 5th, for example, if I go to my visualizations worksheet, it's not going to show anything because it no longer meets that threshold. All right, so everything's working well. One thing to keep in mind is that as you add more weeks, it's going to continue going to the right. So if you don't have enough columns here, it may cause an error and cause it to disappear. If that's the case, either adjust the date right here in A1 or add more columns. Now we want to make sure we have enough for all of our different task focuses. So if you have 50 task focuses for whatever reason, then you need to make sure that you have enough where you can have at least one value populated for each of these task focuses. Based off of my recurring tasks, I have 9. So I'm just going to add a little bit of buffer just in case I add something later, but I really only need 9. So I'm going to go ahead and click in the top left corner of this pivot table, hit copy. I'm going to go down to A18 and paste it. We'll click edit by clicking on the little pencil. And then I'm going to get rid of week start and put task completed. I'll uncheck show totals. Now I don't want this to show every single day that the task completed, so I'm going to right click on it, go to create pivot date group and do year-month. So now it shows April 2025. I'm going to go back to my week start one, go to the top left corner, hit copy, have a little bit of a buffer, and hit paste. I'm going to delete task focus and add priority. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, so copy, add a little bit of a buffer, delete task focus, add priority. All right, once again, we want to go to the week start, top left corner, copy, add a little bit of a buffer, paste. This time we're going to delete priority, and we're going to add type. Now I don't want to see the show total, so I'm going to go ahead and unselect those. All right, another time we're going to go ahead in here. So the ones for the task completed, add a little bit of a buffer, and then change the priority to type. Uncheck show totals. Click on the top left of the week start, add a little bit of a buffer. Then we're going to get rid of type. We're going to put met deadline. Uncheck show totals. And then last one, copy the one for the task completed, add a little bit of a buffer, paste, get rid of type, add met deadline, uncheck show totals. So all in all, you should have 8. So we have 1 for week start, 1 for task completed with the task focus, 1 for week start, 1 for task completed with high, 1 for week start, 1 for task completed with the type, and 1 for week start and 1 for task completed with the met deadline. Now, if you see one of your charts go blank, that means that you may not have enough rows here. So double check that the pivot table actually has data. If it doesn't, it has a little reference error. And if that's the case, all you need to do is add more rows. That way it has enough room to execute. Next, we're going to add another sheet. Right click, rename visualizations. And I'm going to go ahead and move these down to the back. That way everything is in a nice order. At the end of the day, we're going to hide this visualization sheet, but we want the visualizations to be at the end. All right, so now we're going to add some charts. Before we do that, I'm going to click on Task Focus and put Weekly Start. Then I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and make sure you copy it from the formula bar and paste it. We're going to do that for every single one of our pivot tables. That way the graphs make a little bit more sense. All right, so now we're good to go. Now, you're going to skip the very top one. Instead, you're going to select A4 all the way through one above the next pivot table. And I'm going to hold down Command Shift and press right. I'm going to keep pressing right until I get to the end of the columns just to speed things up a little bit. Go to Insert, Chart. I'm going to copy this chart and go over to Visualizations and paste it. We'll resize it a little bit, bring it over here, and then I'll click on these three little dots right here. Go to Edit Chart. I'm going to change the chart type to a stacked bar chart. And then I'm going to switch rows and columns and use column A as headers. So now you can see under the x-axis, we have the weekly start date. And then we have our series, improve profitability. As of right now, that's the only option we have. If we want to, we can add more options. So let's say we want to copy everything here. We'll paste it. Let's put this one as planned. Let's put task 3. Let's put a new deadline. We'll keep it in the same week. And let's put enablement. And then for task completed, let's go ahead and put the 18th. I'm actually going to put the deadline a little bit beforehand so that way we have another overdue. Now for our visualizations tab, you can see that nothing updated, and that's because it's only going through B5 for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. I'm going to go A4 all the way through Z16. So let's go to visualizations, go back to our chart, edit chart, and we'll delete what's there at the end. So colon Z16 and press enter. Now at the start, if you don't see anything populate, click on Add Series and it's probably under there. Just be careful that you don't accidentally add it twice, otherwise it will skew your data. We'll click Customize and go to Chart and Axis Title. I'm going to put this as Task Focus Completed. For chart subtitle, I'll put by week. Horizontal axis title, week completed. And vertical axis title, number completed. All right, now it's up to you if you want to have this up top or if you want to have this to the right. I personally like to have it to the right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Legend, Position, Right. So now it's over here to the right side, and then you can see exactly what each of these colors mean. I'm going to copy this, paste it right underneath it, and then I'm going to click on the three little dots, go to Edit Chart, select the four little boxes, delete the range that's currently there, go to our Visualizations worksheet, and then select A19 through A30, all the way through the end of Z30. Hit OK. Now you can see here it's putting the enablement up top. We want the weekly start date up top, and then we want enablement down here. So once again, once you include it the first time, it will be included going forward. Then everything's going to be the same, except for the x-axis. We want this to be month completed. And then for the subtitle, instead of by week, we want by month. Cool. Now I'm going to copy the top chart, paste it, edit, edit chart, click the four little boxes, delete, go to our visualizations tab. And now we're going to click on A33 all the way through A42 and go through the end of column Z. Press OK. Now I'm going to click on x-axis, weekly start date, and then we'll add high underneath. And it looks like we have both of our options as a high priority. So that way it's showing up as two values under the one option. I'm going to go ahead and copy the month, paste it just to the right. And we're going to do the same exact thing. One pro tip when you're lining things up, it will show you exactly with red lines whenever you're centered. I'll click the three little dots, edit chart, four little boxes, delete the range, visualizations worksheet, A45 through A52, all the way through the end of column Z. Hit OK. I'll click the top one, paste. And as you can see, when I'm dragging, once I have the same distance between each of the charts, you'll see a little blue line in between the charts telling you that's the case. Click on the three dots, click Edit Chart, delete the range, go to our Visualizations tab, A55 through A63, all the way through the end of column Z. Hit OK. Same thing for monthly. Click the three little dots, Edit Chart, four little boxes, delete the range, go to Visualizations worksheet, A66 through A79, all the way through the end of column Z. Hit OK. Copy the week, paste it to the right, line it up as much as you want, edit, chart, click the 4 little boxes, delete, visualizations worksheet. This one will only ever have 2 realistically, so you can just go right there. You can also add different ones if you want to, but just out of habit, I'm going to go ahead just through 889 and then go through the end of column Z, hit OK, exit out of it, copy. Then for the monthly, I'm going to copy, paste, click the 3 little dots, edit chart, click the 4 little boxes, delete, visualizations worksheet, A94 through A100, all the way through the end of column Z, hit OK, and now we're good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete columns T through Z because we don't need those. Now, if you notice, everything says task focus complete, and that's because I never updated it. So what we're going to do here is double click on the title and put task priority completed. I'll go ahead and copy that. Double click on the one down here for month, paste it. Click on this one up top and put task type completed. Copy it. Double click on the one for month, paste. I'll put on time completion. Double click on it to copy it, and it's kind of hidden behind the chart title. So this one's a little bit more difficult. If you need to, you can just go into it, go to chart title axis, and then paste it right there. All right, so now we have 4 different charts based off of the week, and we have 4 different charts based off of the month. You can feel free to change the coloration, everything like that as you want. So let's say you want to have a little bit more, you can just drag the line, have a little bit more. I like to show grid lines to get just a white background. Then I always like to add a little bit of a background color just to make things pop a little bit more. So I selected this box to the left of A and above 1, and that selects the entire cells. Go to fill color, and we can make it a light blue color. So now that looks a little bit nicer. Another pro tip you can do is you can go to Format, Theme, and then by default it has this theme, but you can select whatever theme you want. So let's say I want this theme instead. It will automatically update to whatever theme you want to do. If you want to go ahead and select a theme but you don't like a specific color, after you select it, you can click Customize and then change whatever options you want. So accent 1, accent 2, this is what it's going to show by default to kind of go through however many you have. If you want different color hyperlinks, if you want different color text, a different text entirely, so let's say we want Roboto instead, you can do that all right there. I always like this vintage one, so I'm going to go ahead and add that and then customize it to have a Roboto font instead. Cool. So that will update everything right there. And now we're good with the visualizations. Now just a reminder, as you use this more and more, you have more data in there, more weeks. Don't forget that you can just double click right here and add a different date in the future to minimize the amount that's being shown on your charts. But otherwise, we're good to go. So I'm going to right click and hide sheet. To see that sheet again, all you have to do is click on the 3 lines. And then you can see it's grayed out right here, visualizations worksheet. Click on that and it will become visible again until you hide it again. We're going to add one more sheet. Right click on it. We'll rename this one as dashboard. And now we're going to have some fun. We're going to go A through F and then go down to row 3. So A1 through F3. And I'm going to do the dreaded merge that nobody wants you to do. But in this case, it actually makes sense. And inside here, I'm going to input this formula. So if, open parentheses, count A, open parentheses, from the task list, B3:B, which remember, you can either type it out exactly as it is, or you can go to the task list itself and select it. So this is B3:B. So if I were to do that, I would go and select B3 all the way through the end of column B. So if that equals to 1, put a comma, inside quotes, you have space in the quote, ampersand, count A, open parentheses, that same task list B3:B, close parentheses, ampersand, quote, space, task pending, quote, comma, quote, you have space, quote, ampersand, count A, open parentheses, that same task list B3:B, close parentheses, ampersand, quote, space, tasks pending, quote. Now, realistically, it doesn't fully matter if you have 2 of these. I just have punctuation. So if there's 1 task pending, I'm putting you have 1 task pending. Otherwise, you have multiple tasks pending. That's why it's like that. So if I press enter, it will say you have 1 task pending. So what it's going to do is going to count what you have right here. Now, if I were to copy this and paste, it's going to change to 2 tasks pending. So that's how that works. So it's going to count however many tasks you have right there on your task list. And it will tell you how many tasks you have. I'm going to go ahead and horizontal align this. And I'm going to vertically align this. I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to put this as 20, then add a background color. I'm going to go ahead and make a gold background color. And you might have noticed that it says default, and this is default Roboto. So this is actually tied to the theme as well. So if I were to have a different default text, it would show something different. G, we're going to make super small. I'm going to go ahead and click this thick gray line right underneath the blank box above 1 and drag that to the bottom right between 3 and 4. So now everything is frozen. The reason why we're going to do that is that way we can have everything still showing for the task pending even if we scroll down. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and select A5 through F5, merge those together, put a fill color. I'm going to go ahead and do this blue color. Underneath that, I'm going to put task, type, status, priority, date, and due in. Now up here, I'm going to go put task list, and you can't really see it in its current state. So I'm going to go ahead and make the text color white, make it bold. We're going to go ahead and make that centered as well, and size 13. And I actually don't want it to say task list. I want it to say pending tasks, because this will only include tasks that are currently pending, not the ones that are completed. I'm going to go ahead and select everything right here, go to fill color, and select that same color as before. Then change the font to white, and we're going to make that bold. All right, and so A7, once again, you don't really need to know how this works, but I will explain it. That way it makes sense for you if you need to adjust anything. Once I paste this, it gives us an NA error up top, and that's because we have nothing that has a deadline. What this is meant to do is it's going to sort everything by the deadline, and then underneath that, it's going to sort everything based off of the priority with no deadline. So just for it to make sense, let's go ahead and create another task. Copy, paste. We'll put this as task test 3. And let's go ahead and give this one a deadline of the 21st. I'll put this as not started and put this as high, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so if I go back to my dashboard now, you'll see that the priority is lower technically than the task test 1, but this one has a open due date. This one has a due date that's coming up quickly. So this is a good way just to kind of prioritize and make sure that even if it has a lower priority, still focusing on it in a good way, make sure it's done in time. All right, so for the formula, we're going to put array underscore constrain, open parentheses, vstack, open parentheses, query, open parentheses, from the task list, cells A3 through I. And we're going to make sure that's an absolute reference with dollar signs, comma, inside quotes, select, space, A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, comma, E, space, where, space, E. I'm not going to keep saying space, but you get the point. Is not null, order by, E, comma, D, quote, comma, 0, close parentheses, comma, query, open parentheses, that same task list, absolute reference A3 through I, comma, inside quotes, select A, B, C, D, E with commas in between, where E is null and B is not null, order by E, comma, D. Then after the quote, we'll put a comma 0, 2, close parentheses, comma 39, comma 5, close parentheses. All right, so this is a lot. What this is saying is we want to query. So this is a fancy way of saying lookup or filter or whatever you want to do, but query. We want to query this range right here. So that's a task list A3 through I. So we're going to look up everything I through A3. We only want to return A, B, C, D, and E. So that's why we have A, B, C, D, and E right here. So we're going to select A, B, C, D, and E, where E, which E from the task list is the deadline. So where E is not null, and then if it's not null, so if it has a deadline, we're going to order that by E first, which is our deadline, and then we're going to order it by priority. So if you have 2 items listed on 21st of April, one is a top priority, one is a high priority. Even if we don't have our task list sorted and the high priority is physically above the top priority, it's going to automatically sort those in the correct order. So we have our date, it'll have 2 that show April 21st, and then it would have top, and then it would have high. All right, so the VStack, as you saw with the combine list. This is simply stacking two ranges on top of each other. So we're going to stack just beneath that range that we just created. Another query formula, but this time it's going to be where E is null. We want to have it where it's showing where there is no deadline. And B, which is our task, is not null. That way we're not incorporating a whole bunch of different blank rows that don't have any values in there. Once again, we're going to order by E, comma D. There's no E technically, but that's how that works. So we're going to close those out. So that's our VStack. The array constraint is to limit the amount that we have coming through. So this is going to allow us to have 39 rows. Then we have 5 columns. That's because I'm going strictly through row 56 just to keep things nice and neat. If you have more, then it's going to cut those off. If you need to expand, all you have to do is add more rows and then add more rows right here. So if you need 100 rows, you could delete the 39, add 100, and it will go all the way through 100. I don't really recommend having that much, but if you need it, you need it. Now, just for styling purposes, I'm going to go ahead and add one more row below. I'm going to select A through F, so A6 through F6, then go down all the way through 56. Add borders, then go to alternating colors. Select this blue color, change the header font to that same color we had before, and press done. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like a table. I'm actually going to select the pending task and go all the way through the end of the table. And I'm going to make an outside border and make that a little bit bigger. So it completely defines the area right there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and select P all the way through the end of the columns and delete anything to the right. I'm going to change O to make that smaller. Pro tip, you can select O, hold down Command or Control, select G. Then when you change the size, it will snap both of them to be exactly the same. Select H through N, merge those together, go to Data, Data Validation, Add Rule. From the dropdown, put Is Valid Date, reject the warning if it's not a valid date, hit OK. Exit out of the Data Validation Rule Editor. I'm going to change this to size 18. Let's go ahead and center it. Put whatever color you want. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just put a green color. This will be the same color you want to use for your calendar, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and then double click on there and select the first of whatever month you want it to be. Let's go ahead and change the font color to white. Now we have an actual date. I don't want the date. I want something a little bit different, so I'm going to click on More Formats, which is 1, 2, 3. Go to Custom Date and Time, and then I'm going to delete the day. Delete both of the slashes. I'm actually going to delete the year as well. And then under the month, I'm going to change this to month as full name. Then I'll hit apply. So right here, we can see it says April. Realistically, on the back end, it's April 1st, 2025. If I were to select a different day in here, it would still say April because it's still only going to show the month. But when you use this, make sure you're only selecting April 1st. Otherwise, the actual calculations and the days are going to be incorrect. All right, now we're going to put Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and make this have the same coloration as the other one does. So let's go ahead and select that green and make the font white. And let's make that bold. So we're going to add this formula, which is EO month, so end of month, and then select H1, which is this right here, comma, -1, close parentheses. So what we're doing is we're looking for the end of month, 1 month before April, and then we're going to subtract weekday, open parentheses, H1, comma, 3, close parentheses. So what this is going to do is it's going to extract the Sunday before the date that we have right there. If you are on an international calendar and you want to have Monday be the first, all you have to do, have the same formula, add 1, and you'll be good. So now we're going to put equals each 3 plus 1. And that gives us 3/31, 2025. We'll drag this formula over all the way through Saturday. And now we have a little calendar right there. If I double click on this, you can see that everything is matching up exactly as we need. So we're good to go. I'm going to select all of these different dates, go to 1, 2, 3. Custom date and time. I'm going to delete the current formatting. Use drop down, go to day, select that and say day with a leading 0, hit apply. So now we have the day, how it is in calendar form where you don't have everything else, you just have the actual day that it is. Now you can see that we have March and we have April kind of melded together. We'll fix that here in a second with formatting. All right, so the next part is we're going to have a spot where the tasks go. It's kind of unrealistic to have every single task that you complete in a single day listed. Otherwise, your calendar is going to be very, very long. If you want to, do you? I usually recommend either doing 5 lines or 7 lines. All the pending tasks are going to be stacked on top of the completed tasks, and only the tasks that have a deadline will actually show up in here. Everything else will just go from here to the Done tab. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and formulate this as 7 lines, but if you want to change it, feel free to. I'll show you how to do it. And just kidding, I actually have this for 8 lines. So this is the formula right here. So array constraints, that's the same kind of concept as this. It's going to cut off if it goes past that certain amount. So even if you have 20 tasks on that day, it's only going to show the top 8, and that's listed right here. So if you want to show the top 20, you can go right there and change it to 20. If you want to show 5, change it to 5. So we're going to have array underscore constrain, open parentheses, if error, open parentheses, filter, open parentheses, combined list H2, colon H, you make that an absolute reference with $signs, comma, combined list E2, colon E, equals H3. So it's pointing right here. We'll close that parentheses, put a comma, quote, quote, close parentheses, comma 8, comma 1, close parentheses. So what this is saying is we're going to filter the combined list, column H, H2. So H2 through the end of column H, we're going to filter this where E2 colon E is equal to the date that we have right here. So if the deadline is equal to March 30th, it's going to return the task summary. If it's not, then we're going to have an error, and how we're handling with errors is just going to be blank. And then once again, we're wrapping it in that limit of 8. So that's all good to go. I'm going to go ahead and copy this over. If you copy it over, it will automatically shift to reflect the new date. Make sure that you don't have this absolute reference. You want to have it based off of a relative reference. If you have the $signs around it, it's not going to move, and it will always point to March 30th or H3 in this case. So just make sure that's not there, so that way it moves along with you, because you'll need that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this and go down 8. So let's go ahead and count 8 first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll go all the way through the 3rd row, copy, and then down here in 12, we'll paste it. Now, it's going to give you an error because there is nothing here, right? So we're going to simply press equals, select the last day of the previous week, and put +1. And remember that dates are actually a number on the back end, so that's why this is allowed to work. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through 12. Everything is looking proper. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go all the way up here, and then press it right underneath. Now this time it will work because we already have that reference where it's referencing the date of the last week. You see right here on the 17th, we actually have our 2 deadlines from the Done tab populating right there. One thing to keep in mind is if you try to look at the text that's in the day has the formula, you're only going to see the formula. But if you select the text that's in a cell that's not in the formula, then you'll see the actual values. So it's a good idea to kind of make these a little bit wider. That way you can see a little bit more text. So I'm going to go ahead and make these a little bit wider. Now we're good. Now, one thing you can do is you can see that we have one that's kind of cut off and one that's not. So we'll fix that here in a second. But really all we have to do is select it. So instead of overflow, we'll select clip, and now it's going to be clipped. All right, so same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is through row 29. Copy, paste it right underneath. You see right here, we have a deadline of the 21st for the future. This is from the task list where we have the deadline of the 21st. So everything's working exactly as we want it to go. Since we already have this copied, we don't need to count it. We can simply select the one below, paste. And even if it goes through the very end, we want to go ahead down one more time. That way, if it's one of those odd months that have one day at the top week and then it has another one day at the very bottom week and it's actually 6 weeks long, we don't want to miss that. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it. So even though it's not necessarily in the same month, one you can see in the future if you need to, but it will include everything on those off months. So everything's looking good here. Now we need to do some conditional formatting. I'm going to select H1 all the way through 56. By default, since it's merged, it's going to select H1 through N56. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting. Then for Format Cells, if is not empty, we'll delete that and put is empty. Make that say none and none. We're going to make that say white and white. Now, the reason why I want this to happen is because we want to make sure that if it's empty, it's going to be blank. If it's not empty, we don't want it to be blank, but if it is empty, we do want it to be blank. We're gonna add some background color here in a minute, so that's why we're adding that. I actually want the color to be none, so that way it's whatever default color it is, so none, and the background color is white. Next thing we're gonna do is add another rule. So if the date is today, we want this to be a gold color. Hit done. And just so you know, the order of these do matter. You can always rearrange them later if you mess up, but the order of these do matter. As you know, I started filming on the 16th. Now I'm filming on the 18th. So that's why it's showing that today is highlighted, because today is the 18th. We're going to add another rule. And now we're going to go to custom formula is. We're going to put this formula. So equals month, open parentheses, $H, $1, close parentheses, equals month, open parentheses, H1, close parentheses. So what we're doing is we're looking at the month of H1. This is our date right here in the header. And it has dollar signs. That way, whenever it shifts down, it's not going to move. And then we're going to look up the month in H1. It looks like it's the exact same thing, but since this is not an absolute reference, whenever it applies to every single cell in this range, it's actually going to look at each individual cell, even if it's not in H1. Everything's good to go there, and that's why everything that is in that same current month is a different color. So we're going to change this back to this green color and change the font to white. Now we're good. So now we can see that anything that's currently in the month that's selected will be highlighted in that same green. Now if I double click on it and change a different month, it's going to still highlight, but the actual dates that's being highlighted is going to change based off of what days actually fall within that month. So it's pretty cool. Now, and that's one reason why it's important to go ahead and select the days that are there. And it's because if you select the days that are not correct, it's going to mess up where it thinks the 1 is. So you'll have a false reading. So let's go ahead and keep it at the first of the month, whatever month you select, and we're good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead on the back side and make this row light gray color. So that way, if it's not within the month, it'll look like this light gray. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy, paint, and paint that formatting to every single one. Realistically, the middle ones are always going to be green and not gray, but just for the sake of consistency, let's go ahead and paint every single one. So you can easily see which ones fall within a specific month and which ones don't. Select that range again. So H1 through N61, add another rule. Format cells if text contains none. Then we want it to be none, kind of a lighter gray color, and italicized. And this is a little bit too lighter gray. Let's make it like that. So once I hit done, now those ones that were completed already, so you can see here that it has done in the name, it's going to be a lighter gray color to identify that these are actually completed already. I'm going to duplicate this, and this time I'm going to put pending. And if it's pending, let's go ahead and make this color kind of an orange color, make it bold, and then hit done. This one's actually not started. You can see right here, not started, so that's why it is not showing. This one is pending, but it doesn't have a deadline, so that's why it's not showing up over here. So let's go back to our task list. I'm going to change this from not started to pending. And now if I go back to my dashboard, you can see that now it has that conditional formatting and it's orange. All right, let's make it a little prettier. So I'm going to go ahead and select this entire range. Outside border, going to view, show, grid lines, get rid of those grid lines. For each of the days, I'm going to go ahead and add an outside border as well. So outside border, and then remember, just like last time, I can go ahead and paint. If you paint, you can paint and select every single one of them, and now it's going to show. Let's go ahead and select all of these. Outside border, outside border. So now we're getting some formatting. If you don't like the thick line, you can make the line smaller. So go to the borders and then change it to small. Click outside borders again, and now you have the small. I like that better a little bit, actually, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. So let's go ahead and select everything. I'm going to select this, go right here, select, paint format, select, paint format, select, paint format, select. Paint format, select. So you can see right here that it kind of got rid of our big, thick formatting. So I'm going to go back over here, select the whole calendar, click on outer borders again, and make it big. Now this is a little bit off right here, so I'm going to do that one more time. I mentioned we need to fix the text wrapping, so I'm going to select everything in this range. And where it says text wrapping, instead of having overflow, I want this to be clipped. And now everything is staying within its own cell. Over here, we actually need another formula, so I'm going to embed this formula into the header. This works just like last time, so make sure you have the open curly brace, not an open parentheses to start, a closed curly bracket, not a closed parentheses to end. So we'll put equals open curly brace, inside quotes, do in, which is our label, semicolon, array formula, open parentheses, if open parentheses is blank, open parentheses, B7 colon B, close parentheses, comma, comma. If column B is empty, then it's going to be empty. And I just realized we have task and type switch, so I'm going to need to fix those in a second. This is blank, it's going to be blank. It's not blank, we'll continue. So if open parentheses is blank, open parentheses, E7 colon E, close parentheses, comma, inside quotes open, comma, E7 colon E minus today, open parentheses, close parentheses, and that'll be 4 close parentheses total, and then followed by 1 closed curly brace. What this is saying is if column B is empty, then we want it to be blank. So that's why all these are blank. If column B is not empty, I want to see if column E is empty. If it is empty, we're going to return an open. If it's not empty, we're going to subtract how many days it is from this date right here to today. I'm filming this on the 18th of April, so that's why it's 3 days until the 21st of April. All right, let's go ahead and fix this. So this will be type and this will be task, and now we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and select F7 all the way through the end of column F. Go to Format, Additional Formatting. Format cells if, use the drop down to say less than 0. Then we're going to make this a dark red color, and then the font will be white. We'll hit OK. So what this is going to do is it's going to change if the due in, the negative number means that you're overdue. It's going to turn that color. So for example, let's go ahead and change this from a 21 to 15. It's going to show that we're 3 days overdue, and it's going to turn that color. So that's what this is doing. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this. Is equal to 0. Then we're going to make it kind of a orangey color, whatever color scheme you want. I'll click in there and click add another rule to duplicate it. Then I'll say value is between 0 and 5. Then I'm not going to have a fill color. I'm just going to have a text. So the text will be dark orange, and I'll make that bold as well. Add another rule, change that between 5 and 14, and I'll make this kind of a green color. Add another rule, and then if it's greater than 14, we'll just make it black. Just kind of normal font. All right, so now all of our values for the due in column are complete. Now I'm going to go to priority and do the same thing. So I'm going to go all the way through the end of the column, go to add another rule. So it should say D7 through D56. I'm going to put text contains 2. If it does, then I want the background to be red and the font to be white. Add another rule. Text contains 3. The reason why we can do this is because it has the number right there. Otherwise, we need to put the actual text. So if the text contains 3, I'm going to make it a blue color. If the text contains 4, I'll make it a orange color. Add another rule. The text contains 5. I'll make it this yellow color, and I'll make it have a black font. Add another rule. This contains 1. Make it this purple color, and make the font white. Add another rule. 6, a light purple and black font. Add another rule. And then 7, a black background and a white font. It's always in the same color scheme that we have on our task list, just over here. All right, and now we're going to go do the same thing for our status. So select C7 all the way through C56, add another rule. And we're going to select text is exactly, and we'll do the same color scheme as we had before. So we'll put pending, and then we'll put this yellow color. Add another rule, not started. We'll put a blue color. And let's go ahead and make this white. Add another rule, next week. And let's go ahead and make it a red color. Once you're done, it should look like this. So you have open, if you have there, if you have anything that's more than 14 days out, it shouldn't have any formatting really. If you have a number that is between those specific thresholds, it should be that color. All the priorities should have a color as well. Statuses should have a color as well. Have the same color for everything that is correlated with the month. Just to give it some more color, I'm going to select all of row 57, go to fill color, a little light gray type situation. I'll do the same thing with G1 through the end, that same light gray, and then the same light gray, basically filling in any of the gaps. And then O. Cool, so now instead of having a white background, we have that light gray background. You can do whatever colors you want. This is your spreadsheet, but that's what I'm doing. Now for the task list, I'm going to select all of B. You can hold down Command Shift or Control Shift and press down to select everything at once. Go to Format, Conditional Formatting. We'll use a drop down to select Custom Formula Is, and then put equals C3 equals inside quotes, done. And biggest thing with this is make sure that you have the same row that starts. So C3 and B3, the threes match, so you're good. Now, if this is the case, I'm going to go ahead and select this and change this to a strikeout, no back, and a dark gray text, and italicized. So if it's marked as done, it's not going to be on here. It's going to be on the done tab, but it's going to go ahead and select. I'm going to add another rule, change this to pending, make this a green color and make it bold, add another rule, next week, and I'll make it a dark red color and cross it out. And we'll hit done. All right, so now that we added the conditional formatting, you can see that since we have pending already selected, it's this green color. If I were to change this to next week, it's going to turn that red color with the cross out. And if I mark it as done, it'll be that gray color with the cross out and italicized. So everything's working properly there. I'm going to change this back to not started for both of these. Go to dashboard. We need to add a border around this top left cell. So I'm going to go ahead and go to border, outer borders, and then I'm going to double check and make it a little bit bigger. Cool, so now it's all formatted here. And now it's finally time to add the automation. So I'm going to go to extensions, app script, and here we need to go to my GitHub to be able to copy the app script that's already there. So on any of my socials, you can go to my profile. So if you're watching this from YouTube, you'll click on this link right here that says beacons.ai. If you're on Instagram, beacons.ai is right here. TikTok, beacons.ai is right here. And Facebook, if you scroll down right here, beacons.ai right here. And when you click on that link, you'll see this page right here. And this is my shop, so if you want to buy additional templates instead of making them, feel free to do that right there. But we're going to go to AppScript-Codes. And this will bring you to my GitHub. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and the two that we need for this project is Upgraded Rolling Task Tracker and Upgraded Rolling Task Tracker - Recurring. So the first one is going to be for our automations when it comes to moving things around, adding timestamps and things like that. You don't need to know exactly how this works, but I am going to go over kind of the base of how it works. That way you understand if you want to make any adjustments. But we're going to click on this copy raw file, go back to our app script, delete anything that's currently there, and paste it. Now I'm going to retitle this as task list automations, but you can rename it whatever you want, and then hit save. All right, now when you run this, you're going to get this error message, and that's because the trigger for this is when a cell is edited. If you run it without a cell being edited, then it's not going to work because it doesn't know what location it should run this automation based off of. Now we need to add the recurring automation, so I'm going to click on this plus button to add a file, go to script, recurring, and then once again, delete anything that's currently there. We're going to go back to my GitHub. Down here on the left side, you'll see this upgraded rolling task tracker recurring. We're going to copy the raw file, go back to the automations, paste, save, and then we'll run it. And it's going to ask you for authorization. And the reason why is because since this is user generated, aka I created it, it hasn't been formally vetted through the Google processes. So everything's good though. It's just saying that Google hasn't verified the app. So we're going to go to advanced, go to task list automations, and then click continue. So once you do that, we'll be able to run it, and it will take anything that has that yes over there. And I'll explain this in a second as well. All right, so before I explain the different ways to customize this to make it your own, I'm going to show you how it works. So we're going to test out this flow. Let's go back to the task list, and I'm going to type something in the task list. So I'll say task test 4. When I type this, you should see a timestamp appear under tasks added, and that's because the task was just added. Let's go ahead and add a type. We'll add progress as not started. Let's put medium and enablement. And we'll go and give it a deadline. So we'll give it a deadline of today. And I'm filming this on the 19th now, which is a Saturday, which does affect the way that the recurring automations work since we have it set to not do Saturday or Sunday, but I'll show you how to do that when we get to it. Cool, so once I press pending, you'll see a timestamp appear under task started. And once I press done, a timestamp will appear under task completed, and it should remove entirely from the task list and move to the bottom of the done tab. And it did exactly that. If for some reason you see that it's not going right below the last task and it's going all the way down, let's say right here, that means that you probably have a random space or something in the cell. So all you need to do is just select all the blank cells below where it should be and press delete. That should take care of the problem. It's set to go to the next blank cell, so that's why that occurs. All right, so everything's good there. You can see that we have the time task completed. We have on time because we completed it by our deadline. And we have week start is the new week start. And you can see that even though I'm doing this on Saturday, it's defaulting to the next Monday. And that's because this one's built for a Monday through Friday schedule. All right, so everything's working well. You can see the task is crossed out right here. If we go to our visualizations, now we have that medium pushed right here. So everything's looking good. If you see that it is not there for some reason on any of these charts, once again, just go here, go to edit chart, and make sure that the series is included in the configuration. And once I go to dashboard, you can see it's listed right here as well. All right, so the next thing we want to do is check out our recurring tasks. So it's set to only add anything marked as yes. So anything marked as no, even if you run the app script, it's not going to add anything. Now, since today's Saturday, if I were to change this to something that's well above the semi-weekly is 3 days, 19 days, well above that, it's still going to say no. And the reason why it says no is because today's Saturday. So I have this or clause where if today is Sunday or Saturday, then I want it to say no anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a 6. That way it's Friday. That way it's not blocking me from a Saturday, just so I can show you how to do this. So since it's no longer saying I want it to be no if it's Saturday, now it's saying I want it to be no if it's Friday. Now it says add. If I were to take this and put it below the threshold, so for example, today is the 19th. If I were to say the 17th, it would say no. If I were to say the 16th, it would say yes because 3 equals 3. All right, so now that we have a yes, I'm going to go back to my automations, go to recurring, and run it. And once I run it, you'll see that it automatically gets added to the bottom of the task list. So 3 things should happen. 1, it should get added to the bottom of the task list. And 2, a timestamp should appear under task added. And then 3, back on the recurring task, you should see a timestamp automatically appear at the time you ran it. And as you can see, since the timestamp updated to today, it's showing 0 days since the last. So that's how it's able to recognize if it's been enough days or not to match whatever you have that day set. So like I said, everything's going to automatically change to yes whenever it's ready. And it does go to the bottom of the task list. If you want to resort it, you can just go to the caret, sort column A to Z, and now it's up top. Now, I do recommend sorting it that way instead of dragging it up. If you drag it up or insert a row above, sometimes it's going to trick this formula right here to go through A4 instead of A3. Haven't figured out a fix for that, even though it's anchored in. Not sure why it's happening. But best thing you can do is just order it, and then you want that problem. If you do see something's missing, just come right here, change this from A4 or whatever it says back to A3. Same thing right here, and you'll be good to go with all of this. All right, so this should work just like normal. We'll hit pending, and you'll see that timestamp appear, and then done, timestamp appear. It should delete, go to the bottom of the done tab, and we're good to go. Now you can see right here, it has a timestamp in its full form. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. So we're going to format, number, date, and time. And on the task list, we'll go ahead and actually add that format. So we'll add day, date, use the drop down, select date, day, and edit the column type to date as well. So let's test that out, run it again. So I'll move this back to the 16th, go right here, run. And now you can see instead of having the full timestamp visible, it's only showing the date. And since it doesn't have a deadline, even though it has a higher priority than anything else, it's going to be the very top of the open priorities. A pro tip is under deadline, you can type equals today, open parentheses, close parentheses. And then now it's going to update every single day to whatever day it is. Whenever it copies, it's going to copy that date instead of the formula. So that way you're able to automatically have that deadline populate based off of what day it's added without having to actually add it manually. If you want to have a day in the future, so for example, if you have a 3-day buffer after you add it, you can do today plus 3. And now it's going to add it on the 19th, but the deadline is going to be 3 days from now. So let me show you how that works. Change it to add, go to our app script, let's run it. And now if I go to my task list, I can see I have a clean inbox, and you can see it's the 22nd and not the formula. So that's a pro tip for you. I'm going to go ahead and put this as done. And then I'll go ahead and add a deadline of today for this one, just for the heck of it. All right, so everything's working properly. I'm going to go ahead and change my recurring tasks formula back to not include Saturday. And now if I go back to the 16th or before, it's still going to say no. And the last thing we need to do is add the automation trigger for the recurring task. So I'm going to go to extensions, app script. We want this to be recurring. So pay attention to this right here, copy recurring tasks. We'll go to triggers over here on the left side. In the bottom right-hand corner, click add trigger. and then choose which function to run. We want to drop down and select copy recurring tasks. From event source, I want this to be time driven, and I want this to be day timer. And then you can select what time of day. So if you want it to be from midnight to 1 a.m., I usually do 2 to 3 a.m. So now every day between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., it's going to run this automation task. So it'll run and add anything that's marked as yes, and it'll be waiting for you whenever you're ready to log in. One thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have any tasks to complete, so for example, if everything is already added, you don't have any daily tasks and things like that, it's going to email you an error message saying that it was unsuccessful. That doesn't mean it was bad, it just means there was nothing to add. All right, so everything should be good to go. Let's do one last full walkthrough. So I'm going to go ahead and put a planned task. We'll say task 4, and then put not started. Let's say medium. We'll put a deadline of the 25th. We'll say special project. I'll go ahead and add the link for upgraded task tracker tutorial. And just so you know, you can just put @ and then the name, and it will link whatever you have and have a nice little chip for you. And that's for anything inside Google Workspace. And I'll just say test, and everything should be good. All right, so before we go through the normal flow, I'm going to go ahead and park the task to make sure that everything is working for parked. So we'll put parked, and it should move from this task list to the next available row in the park tab. And then when we mark the task as ready, it should move from the park tab to the task list, which it does. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as pending. Timestamp appears. Mark it as done. Timestamp appears. And it should be at the bottom of the done tab with all the different tests as well as the link. So everything's good to go there. All right, you don't need the visualizations worksheet. I'm going to hide that if you have it unhidden. We don't need the combined list, so I'm going to go ahead and right click on that. And you can order this in whatever way you want it to be. If you want the part task to be last, you can do so. It's really up to you. I typically like to have the dashboard, then the task, then the recurring, then done, then visualizations, and then part tasks. All right, so going back to the automations in case you want to change anything, let's go back to code. So what this is saying that on the name task list, so on the tab called task list, this is where it's going to return. So if these actions happen on a different tab, it's not going to work. So if you don't like the name task list and you want to just put the word tasks or whatever the case is, you'll need to change anywhere on here that says task list to whatever it is. Remember that it's case sensitive and you have to have it match exactly. So keep that in mind. Now, where it says if column 3 is going from the left side. So 1, 2, 3. So column 3 is the same thing as column C. So if column 3 is equal to done, then we want the timestamp to return in column 12. So if we were to go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's why that's populating in column L. It's the 12th column. If you add a new column, then you can, if you add it before, you'll need to adjust the 3 to a 4. If you add it after, you can leave the 3, but you'll need to adjust the timestamp to be in a different column number. You can just count them out. If you don't like done, you want it to be completed instead, you can change the word done to completed. And then just make sure all of your progresses instead of done says completed and that it matches exactly with the punctuation and spelling and everything. And that's the same thing for pending. So anything in pending is set to go into column 11. Now for the task added one, this is in column 2 because we are adding the task right here. So 1, 2. Then it's set to go into column 10. So that's why the task added populates right here. Once again, if you add a column, adjust things, all you have to do is just change the location of the column to match what the new location is. All right, so for the move, this one's a little bit different. So once again, we're looking at column 3, which is our progress status. If you change it to be completed or something like that, all you have to do is mark the first one as completed. Where it says get sheet by name done, this is actually related to the done tab. So if you don't want it to be called the done tab, you want it to be called historical tasks or past tasks or whatever. Where it says target sheet by name done, change that one to whatever you want the new name to be. For parked, same deal. In column 3, if it's parked, you want it to go to part tasks. If you want it to be named something else, for the sheet, change this right here. If you want the option to be named something else, change this right here. If you add a column and the location needs to be somewhere else, all you have to do is adjust this to the new location. So same thing right here. If in column 3, which is the progress, is marked as ready, it will go back to that task list. If you want to change the name, change it right here. And that's really it for the timestamps and locations and all that kind of thing. If I go to recurring, this one's a little bit different. If you want it to not say yes for whatever reason in that formula, you can change that right here. If the location changes, so if you want to add more, so right now I have it copying the 2nd column through the 7th column. If I go back to my task tracker on the recurring tab, I don't want to have this day. That's why it's starting in the 2nd column. So we're going through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All we're copying is the type through the task focus. If you were to add more columns and you want that to be a little bit more, feel free. Just make sure all your configurations on all your different tabs match it. But all you would need to do is, let's say you want to add one more and it's column 8, you would just change it to column 8. And then you'll need to change this to column 12 because now column 12 is where it indicates yes instead of column 11. Another thing that's important is if you add columns to the task list, you'll need to adjust this row as well. What this is saying is that the timestamp when you add that for task added is being applied to column 10, and that's because it's in column 10 on the task list. So that's this cell right here. So if you were to add a couple more columns or delete columns, you'll want to adjust it to the new location where you want the task added timestamp to appear. And finally, on the recurring sheet, it's set to add the timestamp to column 9. And column 9 is where it's automatically added that timestamp, so that's what drives this formula for the days since last. And with that days since last not being correct, the to add won't be correct as well, and it will break the entire thing. All right, so feel free to customize it as you see fit. If you make any changes, just hit save, and you can make this your own. So you can add more columns, you can add different options. If you want to create an entirely new section, you can do so as well. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe to be alerted if there's any updates that happen later on, or if there's any other templates that you may want, or just general Google Sheets tutorials, just learn how to use Google Sheets. And as always, let me know if you have any questions and like and comment for more.